Your life begins in silence. You are an infant held above a ravine while an elder studies your body with cold, careful eyes. In Sparta, weakness is not a problem to fix. It is a reason to disappear. If you are judged unfit, your story ends before it begins. But you do not cry. You stare back. The elder nods. You live. That is your first victory. Now you are 7 years old and childhood is over. You are taken from home and placed into the Agoge, Sparta's brutal training system. There are no soft beds, no warm blankets, no room for comfort. You sleep on reeds you tear from the ground with your own hands. They cut your skin. You are hungry almost all the time. You are fed black broth, a meal so harsh it feels like part of the punishment. If you want more food, you steal. If you get caught, you are beaten. Not for stealing, but for being bad at it. That is one of Sparta's deepest lessons. Success matters. Weakness does not get forgiven. You go barefoot over stone until pain becomes normal. You wear rough clothing through heat and winter. You train your body to obey. You train your face not to show fear. You train your mind to stop asking for softness. In public endurance contests, boys are whipped and expected to remain silent. Pain is temporary. Shame lasts longer. You learn to fight almost as soon as you can think. Wrestling, running, striking, endurance, obedience. Even speech is shaped into something hard and efficient. Spartans are taught to speak briefly, sharply, and with purpose. Then the training grows darker. As a teenager, you are pushed into a world of fear, secrecy, and violence. You are taught not just how to fight, but how to become useful to the state. By the time you are grown, something inside you has changed. You are no longer being raised to live freely. You are being shaped to hold a shield in a line and never break. When you finally become a full warrior, your equipment defines your life. The spear gives you reach. The sword waits for close and desperate moments. But the shield is everything. Because the shield is not only for you, it protects the man beside you. That is why a Spartan does not fight as an individual. He fights as part of a wall. That wall is the phalanx, a machine made of bronze, discipline, breath, and timing. Every man depends on the next. Every step matters. Every failure spreads. Then history arrives. It is 480 BCE. Leonidas leads 300 Spartans toward Thermopylae. You are one of them. Ahead is the Persian Empire. Vast, powerful, and seemingly endless. The numbers are overwhelming, but the land changes everything. At Thermopylae, the pass is narrow. Mountains on one side, sea on the other. The ground makes size less important. Before battle, you do not panic. You prepare. You adjust your armor. You stand in line, and you wait. Then the Persians come. The first wave crashes into the pass. Shields slam together. Spears thrust forward. Dust rises. Bodies fall. But the line holds. That is what Sparta was built for. Not freedom, not beauty, not philosophy. This. Your arms burn, your legs shake. The air fills with heat and blood and pressure. When one man tires, another steps in. The wall keeps moving. The machine keeps working. The enemy keeps dying. Day 1 passes and the line still holds. Then day 2 comes. And again the Persians attack. Even the elite cannot break through. The narrow ground turns their numbers against them, but battles are not always lost from the front. In the dark, a traitor reveals a hidden mountain path. By dawn, the truth reaches the camp. The Persians are behind you. Now there is no way out, no victory left, only a choice about how this story ends. Some allies leave, some stay. The final defenders remain beside Leonidas, and the mood changes. There is no panic, only clarity. Everyone understands what is coming. Then the last battle begins. But now the perfect order of the phalanx starts to collapse. Shields crack, spears snap. The fighting becomes closer, uglier, more desperate. Men fight over space, over breath, over seconds. Leonidas falls, and after that, the battle grows even more savage. The body of the king becomes the center of the struggle. Warriors die trying to defend it. The ground disappears under blood and bronze and dust. Then the Persians pull back. For one moment, everything feels still. You look up and the sky turns dark, not with clouds, but with arrows. The final blow comes from a distance. The defenders are exhausted. Their shields are broken. There is nowhere left to go. The volley falls. You are hit. Your body fails. You fall onto the ground and look up at the sky above Greece. Still bright, still calm. Then everything fades. Afterward, the battlefield is silent. Xerxes walks among the dead. He has won. But the victory is costly, far too costly. Too many bodies. Too much damage, too much proof that even an empire can bleed. The pass is filled with broken shields, snapped spears, torn cloaks, twisted bodies, and the smell of blood, dust, bronze, and seawater hanging in the air. What was supposed to be an easy display of imperial power has become something else, something heavier, something that will not disappear when the battle is over. Because the Persians did not just defeat a small force of Greeks, they ran headfirst into a kind of discipline so absolute that it turned a narrow strip of land into a graveyard. And Xerxes can feel it. Even in victory, he can feel that this place has stolen something from him. Not territory, not men, but certainty. The certainty that his empire is too vast to be resisted, too rich to be challenged, too powerful to be wounded. And now that certainty is gone, now there is evidence all around him that even the greatest empire on earth can be slowed, cut, and forced to pay in blood. And then comes the part Sparta never escapes, the legend. Because battles end, but stories do not. And the story of the 300 begins to grow, larger than life, larger than the field itself, larger than the men who actually stood there. It becomes a symbol of perfect courage, perfect sacrifice, perfect discipline. But the truth is always harder, always more complicated. They were not alone. Other Greeks fought there too. Men from Thespiae, Thebes, and other cities stood in that pass and died there as well. Yet time for the rest of Greece to breathe, time to regroup, time to prepare fleets, armies, and alliances, time for resistance to harden into something larger than one pass and one king. And that time mattered, because later the Persians would be checked again, and later still they would be defeated at Plataea, where a very different battle, broader, heavier, less mythic, but no less important, would help end the invasion. So Thermopylae was not victory, and it was not meaningless either. It was the moment when defeat became resistance, when loss became signal, when a doomed stand sent a message powerful enough to outlive the men who made it. And even after all this, Sparta leaves behind a legacy that is impossible to admire without also questioning. Because yes, it created extraordinary discipline, extraordinary endurance, extraordinary soldiers, men who could hold formation under pressure that would break almost anyone else, men who could obey with terrifying precision, men who could endure pain, exhaustion, hunger, and fear without collapsing. But it did so by stripping away softness, freedom, tenderness, doubt, and balance. It built powerful warriors, but it built them inside a brittle society, a society that feared weakness so much it turned harshness into identity, a society that trained boys not simply to be brave, but to become useful parts of a machine, a society that rested its strength on control, hierarchy, and the labor of the helots beneath it. Sparta produced men who could die without retreating, but it also produced a world where human value was measured too often by utility, endurance, and obedience. And that is why the legend shines and darkens at the same time, because what looks heroic from far away can feel colder when you step close enough to touch it. When the next great battle comes, he does not fight carefully. He does not fight like a man hoping to live. He fights like a man trying to erase a stain. He rushes ahead in reckless fury, beyond discipline, beyond balance, beyond caution. Sparta wins. Persia is broken. Aristodemus dies. Even then, the judgment remains complicated. Some say he fought bravely. Others say he was not brave at all, only desperate. That is Sparta in one detail. It is never enough to die, you must die correctly. Now step back and look at the myth. First, the famous 300 were not alone. Many other Greeks fought at Thermopylae, especially in the first days. But history prefers symbols, and Sparta became the symbol. Second, the Persian army was enormous, but not literally the absurd number later storytellers loved repeating. Still, in that pass, exact numbers mattered less than the feeling of endlessness. Third, Thermopylae mattered. It bought time. Time for the Greeks to regroup, time for resistance to harden. A year later, at Plataea, the invasion would be decisively broken. But there is another side to all of this. Sparta was brilliant at producing warriors and terrible at producing balance. Its men were trained into weapons, its women were stronger and freer than many others in Greece, but still lived inside the same war machine. Its entire system rested on helot labor, fear, and permanent militarization. It could create discipline at terrifying scale. It could not create flexibility, softness, or renewal. Athens produced arguments, art, theater, philosophy, politics. Sparta produced silence, drills, shields, and one of history's most efficient systems for turning human beings into military material. And in the end, that system consumed itself. The legend survived longer than the city. That may be the final lesson. Willpower can be harder than bronze. Duty can outlast flesh. A formation can hold against impossible odds. But a society built only on hardness eventually becomes brittle. You were born under judgment, raised in hunger, shaped by pain, trained into obedience, armed for the wall, marched into legend, and ended beneath a rain of arrows. You did not retreat. That is why history remembers you. But memory is not the same thing as wisdom.